Alright, how you guys doing today? We about to hop into a little reaction of First Things First though. Just go ahead and make sure you like the video. You know what to do. Look, exit full screen, scroll just a little bit, like it up, and then full screen it back up. You feel me? Loki had to switch to the left arm right there because I should have put this on this side. Next video it'll probably be there. Anyway, sorry for not posting a video yesterday. I had to pack and stuff. We had a 2-day overnight retreat, so I wasn't here for the entire day. I was going to make a video, however, I went to bed at like dang near 2 a.m. I had to wake up at like 5:30 the day before we went, so it was a really tough thing. I will say, on the bright side, literally, because the good thing I like about this setup is the sun is here, and if I record around this time, which is technically not the time that I'm supposed to, because I like to get these videos out early, but you know, life happens, aka I don't be moving with enough urgency, right? But on the bright side, the sun is like coming in nicely, so I get to look all, I don't know, for the camera, but like, you know, I feel like it's more aesthetically pleasing, right? The sun's coming in, it's shining off the microphone, which is a good thing kind of, but you can kind of see this little fuzz that I can see on the little reaction camera, but I don't even know if it's this fuzz that I'm trying to grab at. Or is it on the screen? Actually, I think it's a piece of the sharpness of the camera. Anyway, not sharpness like glass, like there's a setting on the camera called sharp. Anyway, today's reaction is coming from Cold Case Christianity, one of our favorite YouTubers to react to. We haven't reacted to, you know, I'll save that. I won't get your hopes up yet. Don't you worry your little heads. But we got How to Defend Christianity. And when I was saying I was on a retreat, right, it's because I'm being an orientation leader at my school. And being an orientation leader, right, they want us to build community, so training is just starting. So we had our little retreat to kind of bond with our people. I just met my he's a great dude. Like, literally, we have so much stuff in common. It's actually crazy. He's a Catholic too, so he's like mad chill with like me talking about Jesus and stuff like that. It's chill. But we had this little point in the night where we were supposed to like share an item that was like special to us in some way. And one of the guys, he brought up in his story that he's not religious, but the reason that this thing that could be seen as religious has so much weight with him, the reason it holds so much weight is because he was like, I would lose stuff, and then she'd pray for a saint to pray, or however intercession works on that scale, for, I'd assume his mom is Catholic or whatever, but you know, he's praying, and the day after he would always find it. Every time he lost something, his mom would pray to his saint, and the thing would be found. And I'm like, you're literally, the prayers got answered, gang. Is that not evidence for you? Like, low key, I was just sitting there like a little bit baffled. Like, imagine, yeah, no, this happens to me, this negative thing happens to me. Every time it does, like, somebody prays for me and then the next day it's fixed. I ain't religious though. Like, come on. Anyway, so we just got How to Defend Christianity. It really didn't have anything to do with the video, but I just wanted to bring that up, a little life story for y'all, so you can see what I go through on a day-to-day basis if y'all really care. Anyway, Mr. Cold Case, let's check it out.
I'm often asked why it is I actually use evidence to determine that Christianity is true. Isn't faith really the kind of thing that you're to do blindly or to do with no evidence? If you've got good evidence, why would you call this faith to begin with? Well, I think the history of Christianity tells us something about the word faith. Jesus consistently would proclaim a message and then say, if you don't believe what I'm telling you, at least believe on the evidence of these miracles. He did this over and over and over again and commissioned his apostles as what? As eyewitnesses who would then proclaim his message to those who didn't know Jesus personally. And you'll see that even the selection of the apostles was dependent upon their eyewitness status. Think about that for a second. After Judas leaves this group, right, they have to replace him with Matthias in the upper room. Well, what's the qualification that will replace Judas as an apostle? Well, they needed to have seen and known Jesus from the baptism to the resurrection. They were looking for another eyewitness. That's called direct evidence. So from the teaching of Jesus as an evidentialist to the selection of his disciples as evidentialists, you over and over again see, as a matter of fact, if you're reading scripture to see if this is true, what are you really reading? You're reading the accounts that are written by what? Who? By people who either were eyewitnesses or who had access to eyewitnesses. Did you know that there were many other ancient books the Shepherd of Hermas, the Epistle of Barnabas, the First Clement, that were used by the early church, but they're not in your Bible today. Why not? Because they were not written by eyewitnesses, an important criteria for anyone who wrote a book that ends up in our New Testament. So here we have another example of the value of an evidential approach. Jesus certainly was an evidentialist. He chose other eyewitnesses to testify about him, and even the writings we find in the New Testament are written by eyewitnesses. From start to finish, Christianity is an evidential worldview.
You know, and I was just not arguing with somebody in the comments, but, you know, discussing with somebody in one of my comments on my videos that, like, St. Thomas, who was Thomas the Apostle, doubting Thomas. Was he doubting Thomas? I actually don't know about that one, sorry. But Thomas the Apostle, probably, because he was one of the disciples, right? But I was like, Paul, well, not Paul, but, like, he was one of the people walking around with Jesus, right? And as such, we should look about some historical data for them as well, right? Because if they were walking around with Jesus, screw Jesus in terms of, like, you know, y'all care about not having evidence for Jesus walking around. Thomas, known all over Southeast Asia for the missionary work that he did. Pretty hard to argue that bro wasn't there if they know him all throughout there and whatever. He's got statues, churches, who do what's it's all over Southeast Asia, right? Probably a real dude. Come to find out, right? I don't know if he was hanging with Paul, right? But if they're all together there in the upper room trying to pick the 12th disciple in Acts, where Paul was, where is written, actually, I don't know if Paul was there, but like because I had to go over the fact that the letters of Corinthians are verified as actual, like, verified letters, right? Despite what you want to say about the historicity and the content, they are true letters that were written, right? At least they were a letter that was written. Whether what's written in them is true or not, you know, a lot of it's just kind of like to the church, so like do this, don't do that kind of aspect of it, right? But in Acts was written by Luke. Luke wrote one of the Gospels. Luke wrote Acts. Luke was there watching Jesus at points, watching the disciples at points, watching Paul at points. We have these things. Paul wrote that, and he was with Luke. Luke was with them and the disciples, aka with Jesus and all that, and they still like to talk about, come on now. They like to talk about it. None of it's backed up. Like, come on, bro.
I'm not going to plagiarize some of my good friends who have given me good questions to ask. I've got a friend named James Picardo, for example, who wrote a book called Unsilenced. And here's a question that he always starts his spiritual conversations with. Are you ready? I think it's a cool question because it's diagnostic. He will say, what do you think happens when you die? I mean, this is a question he will launch out, whether he's standing next to somebody in a line at a coffee shop, or standing next to somebody waiting for a bus or a taxi, or if he's just anywhere. He will ask that simple question. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm Jim. Yeah. What do you think happens when you die? Now, that sounds like a crazy first question, right? But it's the hurdle he jumps quickly. Now he's already over the fear hurdle, and it's a diagnostic question because how that person answers the question will actually help you know where they are in their worldview. If they tell you, for example, well, nothing happens, or they tell you, I think you're reincarnated, or you're going to find out what their metaphysical beliefs are by simply asking that question. It's a great question. But there's a better one, maybe a better one, that my friend Frank Turek taught me to ask some time ago, and that's this one, equally diagnostic. If Christianity were true, would you believe it? Think about that for a second. A lot of my people I talked about this on college campuses, for example, said, well, yeah, but it's not true. No, I didn't say that. I said, if we could demonstrate that it's true, if that was off the table as a question, if Christianity were true, would you believe it? Would you become a Christian? People will say, no. You're thinking, really? You wouldn't, that shows you right away that's not a head issue. It's not an intellectual issue. It's a heart issue. So those are two good questions to start conversations with that both, I think, are diagnostic, and both will take you and help you take another step in your conversations.
I say that second one is really good if you're a really bold individual. Like, if you really don't care, you know what I'm saying? Because the, like, you know, what happens if you die? You can get a lot of gauge off that. You can even make friends off that, right? Because you get to see what they're talking about, and that brings in a conversation. Like, if he says, you know, I think we get reincarnated, you're thinking like, oh, maybe that's some type of Buddhism and a karmic thing. Hinduism, I think, also believes in reincarnation, but don't quote me on that. I was actually one of the guys we just met at the retreat that I got closer with. He's Hindu. And he was talking to me about like these things that he's got to do in his family's in like the priest branch of the caste system or something. It was pretty cool. And I was really interested. And notice how I didn't say I hated on him and all that stuff. Like, literally, as a Christian, I was just picking his brain because I'm like, I'm a religious person. I wonder what your religious experience is like, even though it's different than mine. You know what I'm saying? But we also had a point in the thing where we were talking about personal and social identities, and social identities is think like your race, your gender, or whatever the case is, right? And if people are saying it's easier to talk about personal identities, and I think it is easier to talk about personal identities, but there's an added oomph. Like I kind of disagreed with everybody, and it was weird because they were saying it's easier to talk about personal, and I was like, not for me. Like I like social identities better because right, I'm black. If you guys are a minority, or even if you're not, you may relate to some of the things that I'm about to say. But like I talk to another black person, something in a conversation just kind of clicks. Right, we're just kind of like on the same wavelength. You know what I'm saying? We got, I don't want to say the same mannerisms or anything, but at least like an African American person, like got the same culture in America at least, right? We're probably gonna use a little bit of the same slang, a little bit of the same talk. We can understand each other a little bit better. We're, you know, we locked in, for lack of better terms. And then mix that with a man, right? Black dude, we're chopping it up about whatever the case we want to chop it up about. Black girl, you know, a little different from like man to girl. You know, being black doesn't really change much. Like I can rock with any black girls, whatever the case is. But in terms of like being a man, I think that has more weight to it. Like man to woman, like my drastic exchanges versus race to race. You know what I'm saying? But the point being is something like how would you die? I wouldn't be afraid to ask that question. And honestly, I like the fact that he's just like you doing it at a coffee shop. I might do that because I've been worried about like not worried, but I've been thinking about, you know, how I could be more evangelistic. And I used to pray to God, like, help me have more zeal to like spread the gospel because that's something I'm very interested in. But I just don't know how to go about it in a non-pushy, non-aggravative way. Because I know for me, right, number one, I'm scared of rejection, right? Everybody that I meet, I want to be friends with them. I want to have a good vibe and a good conversation and a good connection with them. And I don't want to be like put on halt. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to be like, oh, if I ever met this person again, they're going to look at me like, oh, that's the pushy, nasty Christianity guy. I want them to be like, oh, that's the cool guy that kind of just asked me about my beliefs and everything. And like, he was Christian, but he was cool overall. You know, so that question is pretty harmless. That's why I said for the second question, you know, you got to be kind of bold to do that because it's like coming bold face out and saying it like, yo, if this is true, would you believe it? Because like, if you do that to any random person, if they're already Christian, their answer is just going to be, well, it is, and I do. And then I guess, like I said, personal belief, social belief, you're going to dap up on that personal belief. You're like, oh, dude, me too. But I was also thinking in my head, is it a personal belief or is it a social belief, right? Because there's like Muslim countries. You can be born into a Muslim country, same way you're born into like a girl body, you know? And they low-key threw me off too because they were like, oh, let's raise our hands if we think it's a personal or social thing. Whatever. Like, raise your hand if it's social, leave it down if it's personal or whatever. And the first one was woman, and I was like, in this woke day and age, I don't know if that's a personal identity, social identity. I didn't know what it was. I left my hand there. She's like, I want to see all the hands. Because it wasn't like raise it or leave it down. It was like something or something with your hands. It was like one hand up or two hands up. I don't know. All I know is I left my hand down because I was like, I ain't getting caught out there. I ain't getting wrong. Especially with this one getting canceled day one where I'm just meeting everybody, or day two when I just met her, and not me. I'm not the one. I done been down that road too many times now. I know what to do and what not to do. We know how to move. I know my audience. Anyway, but the point is that question's type easy, right? And if you're like, you know, kind of quiet, introspective kind of person, I'd say you can even ask that too. Even like introverts be like, you know, it's definitely a weird conversation starter for sure. Some people don't like to have those. Oh, that's the point I was going. My brain is moving too fast. The point I was going, some people don't like to have those deep talks. I like to have those deep talks. We were talking in our groups about like, oh, the deep talks hit harder at night and stuff like that. But overall, like, I like deep talks because I feel like the social issue or the social identities bring that more. Because I said to everybody, I was like, the social identity kind of shapes your whole worldview. Like, it's your belief system. It's how you see the world and how you navigate through the world, right? Me being black, there's things I carry with that. Me being a dude, there's things I carry with that. Like my mom, bro. I literally step out the car for 5 seconds. She locked the door and I'm like, why are you doing that? She's like, it's because I'm a girl. You got to lock the door to be safe. And I'm like, I went away for 5 seconds. She's like, it's just habit, right? That's something as a man I don't really relate to. Seen a video the other day. It was like, as a girl, I can never be a man. Because what do you mean you get up to go check what that noise was in the middle of the night? Now, depending on me, I ain't checking that noise out. That's because I'm black. But, you know, we don't go investigate. But if it's like a, you know, something like home intruder, like, and I had some to defend myself, like, you best believe. Like, I had to do that for some of my residents 2 years ago. That somebody screamed in the middle of the night. And, like, unfortunately, despite it being maybe a murder or something like that, like, I got to go check it out because I can't, you know, I ain't going to let my girl residents who came to my door knocking and scared, like, I can't let them just, you know, be vulnerable like that. So I had to go up there, check it out. Turns out everything was okay. You know, just like a little argument on the phone and a scream, nothing crazy. But point being, I really like that conversation, and this video a little bit long, but it's a great video to react to. There's nice pauses where I can break down and analyze how I would defend it, or things I've seen in my day-to-day life and all this stuff. So hopefully you can take this away with some grains. All right, that's gonna be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.